Hello there again and welcome. Ryan Nordall here, Epic Whitetail Habitat LLC. Today I want to talk about something that's coming and you can't escape it. It's the October lull. Today I want to talk about how I have broken through the cycle of the October lull to have success during this period of time. Now, success to me isn't what success is to you, and vice versa. To me, success is at least going out during this particular period of time called the October lull and seeing deer, seeing that mature buck that I'm after, at least having an encounter with him. How do I break through this phenomena? It's pretty simple. On smaller properties, it's about keeping the pressure off, accepting the less is more concept. And as other people say, and you've heard them say on YouTube, you literally can kill more deer by sitting on the couch. And that's exactly what I've learned to do over the course of the years, especially within the last 10 years. And having more encounters is what the game is all about. Ultimately, yes, I want to kill a deer during this period of time. But if I can at least see him and him not know that I was there after him, that's success. Being able to see him and him not knowing that I was even in that woods. That's my definition of success. But how can we break this cycle? And why does it happen? Well, one of the biggest reasons that it happens is simply there's more pressure being put on these deer. It's hunting season. There's more and more people in the woods, whether you hunt private land or public land. And how do you break that cycle? You focus on food and water sources. What kinds of food? You can still hunt food plots, but they're not the main destination plots like you see the one here behind me. They're the small secluded plots, but are easy to get to. You still have to maintain easy access, easy out, without deer knowing that they're being hunted at that particular time. You don't want to be bumping does at that time. You got to be smart about it. Those does are your worst enemy, believe it or not. Doesn't matter if the buck sees, hears, or smells you or not. If those does hear, smell, or see you, the game is pretty much up. Because they're always in a pattern to pattern you as well. As much as we're trying to pattern deer this time of year to find out where they are, we're in the woods more and more trying to find them, checking our trail cameras if you still have to pull cards, in there scouting, looking for scrapes, looking for rubs, where these deer are during the daylight, where they're heading to in the evenings, in the late afternoons. The more and more pressure you're putting on them, the more and more those deer will show up nocturnal on your trail cameras. And why do they show up nocturnal on your trail cameras? Remember, there is no such thing as a nocturnal deer. The reason they're showing up on your trail cameras, whether you have to go in and pull those cards or you have cell cameras, is because you're putting more pressure and more pressure on your property. You're forcing those deer, especially the mature bucks that you might be after, you're forcing them to bed elsewhere, not on your property. I have plenty of bucks and good bucks, a lot of good up-and-comers. That are creating their core on our main property that we hunt, the proving grounds that we hunt. The last thing I want to do is go in there when the conditions aren't right and blow those deer out of there. Hunt because they're showing up on camera. That's not what it's about. Yes, you hear me say that you got to watch your cameras, monitor your cameras, and let them tell you when, but I want everything to be right. More deer activity I get is correlated to the weather patterns. It's just finished raining here this afternoon. We've come off an extended period of heavy rains, 3 or 4 days worth. Last night, my trail cameras were blowing up like crazy because there was a period of time in there where it wasn't raining anymore. Those deer were up on their feet, moving, grabbing a bite to eat, going to a water tank, wherever they were going. They were really hitting the mock scrapes. One in particular that I'm pretty excited about. But we're focusing on food sources. What are some of the food sources that these deer have been shifting to this time of year? There's a lot of crops that are starting to come off. Soybeans are starting to come off like crazy. A lot of soybeans in our area. Yeah, they're a great early season food source. You know, I'm filming this here at the end of September, and these soybeans typically on an average year are still green this time of year. They're not this year. The deer aren't in them as much. Yes, the deer are still hitting soybeans, but just not as heavy as they usually do this time of year, hitting that green food source. And there's nothing like soybeans when they're still green. Soybeans in their second peak feeding time that I've noticed in my hunting career is later in the late season. December, January, even later in the off season. But what else are they focused on this time of year? This year in Wisconsin, there's an overabundance of acorns, which is a good thing. I'm not saying that's a bad thing at all. Especially white oaks. White oaks, just a bumper crop of white oak acorns out there. Deer prefer white oak acorns over any. Yes, they'll hit any acorns there are out there. I'm not trying to downplay any type of acorn whatsoever, but white oaks are the most preferred by deer. If you have chestnuts, all the better. If you're in an area where you can grow chestnuts. If you're going to implement chestnuts in your habitat program in the future, make sure you're aware of growing zone hardiness, things like that. What other food sources? You know, apple trees, apples, pears, any type of fruit trees that are peaking this time. You know, I've even got nannyberry bushes, some varieties of crabapple that are starting to ripen and drop at this time of year, especially right here on my home property. I've got a lot of nannyberry, which acts as a great screen. I've got one particular stand that's surrounded by nannyberry, plus the taller trees that are there. But what a great screen. But those berries on those nannyberry bushes are starting to come ripe, and the deer are hitting them. They're really starting to hit them. That crabapple tree that I was telling you about just a little bit ago too, it's ripening off, starting to drop some of the fruit, and the deer are attracted to that as well. Knowing where those food sources are, whether you hunt your private land or public land, knowing those types of food sources is a great place to key on, especially if they're located back next to a bedding area that you can get into without disturbing that bedding area at all. Water. Water is another great source to focus on this year. Look for those creek crossings. If you know where they are, it might be a place to focus on. I always try to have a trail camera at one of those crossings if it applies to the property that I hunt. Yes, I do have a property where there's a significant creek crossing, and that's on my brother's farm. I call that particular part of the property, it's a separate 40 off the farm. There's a road that splits that 40 from the regular farm itself. I call that property behind my parents. There's a creek crossing there. I have a camera just up from that creek crossing where they come from the creek, they come along the creek, parallel the creek, scent checking the wind, the primary winds, which generally are a westerly wind coming off of my brother's farm. I incorporate a mock scrape there, and it's a great place to set my trail camera to observe that area as well. But water tanks in your woods, if your property's high and dry like the proving grounds is, even here at my own home. I'm fortunate enough where I have a pond just over here, over my right shoulder. I can set up a pop-up blind there. I don't have one there yet. I don't know why I never have. But deer do hit that north end of that pond. And it's a great place to set up for an ambush late in the afternoon during the October lull. You can beat the October lull. You apply the less is more approach. Let your trail cameras do the work. Wait for the weather conditions to be right. That first good cold front, you know, we're going to get up to, we're going into the last days of September here, the first part of October. It's supposed to be up near 85 degrees in this particular part of the state of Wisconsin. But boy, middle of next week, late next week, I think there's going to be a cold front that comes through. Don't quote me on that. But when that significant cold front does happen, boy, what a great time to be in the woods. It might even be a time to get in on a morning sit, you know, but pay attention to the wind. If that wind direction shifts on you, make sure you're able to get down and get to a different stand location because you still want to take advantage of that cold front coming through. Hey guys, that's just how I've come to beat the October lull. Again, it's not about necessarily killing a deer for me. Where I see success during the October lull, it's about seeing more deer, and it's about at least encountering that mature buck that I'm after. If I can put an arrow through him, hey, that's just icing on the cake. But I've come to see more deer just by implementing the things that I've talked about in this video here today. So, if you found this video helpful, educational, make sure you give it a like. Hey, and if you're new here to this channel, be sure you hit that subscribe button, turn on the bell notification. That way every time I upload a new video, you get that notification right away. And hey, any of the products or tools that you ever see me using in my videos, you can always find links in the description below these videos. So make sure you check that out. Greatly appreciate it. And any more information, always be sure to check out our website, www.epicwhitetailhabitat.com. Thanks for joining me, guys. God bless you all, and keep living the dream.